Adding insult to injury. I made my living doing sit-down astrology readings with clients for years, and I still do readings, but mostly for friends and acquaintances these days. I'm just too busy running a company to have the time anymore, but I still do like to do them. One thing that comes up in many readings is what do we do when something really devastating happens to us in our lives, like losing our job, our life savings, our partner, or what have you. These kind of events happen all too often, and they happen to almost everyone at some time in our lives. It's a real setback, and it's happened to me for sure, big time. Or perhaps we do something ourselves just awful that we really didn't mean to do, something we can't just undo. It just happened, and before we knew it, the toothpaste was out of the tube and we couldn't get it back. This kind of event also leaves a big imprint. What do we do when we make mistakes? People that I've counseled seem to spend an inordinate amount of time feeling depressed, feeling bad about what's happened to them. For some, it becomes the main theme for the rest of their lives, with lots of regret and bitterness and anger and the like. It even takes on a life of its own, and it certainly takes their life, what they have left of it. It's the same thing with big gaffes or mistakes. We dwell on them, and often for a long, long time. We can be preoccupied with our mistakes, with humiliation or loss. I hear this again and again in astrology readings. But before I comment on any of this, I want to link my suggestions to a topic that I've been trying to get across to readers for years, but with not a lot of success, and that is the concept of mind training. I hesitate to use the word meditation because either it's misunderstood or people quickly replace what I mean by that word with their own explanation. I guess what I'm saying here is please hear me out on this with an open mind. Get a fresh take. Ultimately, I want to point out to you how practicing meditation affects how we take these big road bumps that life sometimes puts in our way. It's not as simple as meditation practice makes us peaceful or more accepting. I guess it does, of course it does, but that's not my point. In basic meditation, we practice focusing on an object like our breath, or a pebble, maybe a spot on the floor, and so on. It doesn't really matter what the object is. The point of meditation practice is to let our mind rest and focus on whatever object we've chosen, and not to let it stray from that. Now, this is easier said than done, of course, and here's the view. In meditation practice, when instead of focusing on the object, the stone, the breath, the pebble, we find ourselves thinking instead about what we're going to have for lunch. Now, when we become aware that we've strayed from the object, that we're thinking about lunch, then we stop straying, and we gently bring our mind back to the object and begin again. We start over. There is no blame, no regret, no admonishing ourselves for straying. No thought like that at all, and no energy spent on our laps, because it's a total waste of time. Instead, we just bring the mind back to focusing on the object that we've chosen for meditation and just begin again. And this is why they call it meditation practice, because we are practicing. We're learning a habit. In this case, to keep our mind on what we're doing and not to stray from it. And if we do stray, we spend zero time worrying about it, about our lapse or mistake, and we just bring the mind back and start over. My point, then, is that this habit of starting over with no remorse or without dwelling on the past that we learn in meditation practice, not dwelling on what's happened, what should have happened, what might have happened, or on how sorry we are that it happened, etc. This carries over into life events that happen to us as well. It's not that we should feel no remorse, no regret when we make a big mistake. Of course, we just do. Or that the loss of something or someone important to us should not affect us. It does. The idea here is that we don't need to add insult to that injury. It's unfortunate that something awful has happened in our lives that impacts us. If on top of that we spend untold hours, days, months, or years of our life regretting it, then we really do continue that loss. We add insult to the injury that we've already sustained. In meditation practice, we learn the habit of just dropping it. Much like when my dog picks up some smelly dead thing, I say to him, leave it. We can do the same when these catastrophic or humiliating events happen to us. Just leave it. We can let it go and start over without wasting our precious life energy on something that we can do nothing about anyway. We don't need to add insult to injury. We may not be able to control what happens to us in our life, whatever life brings, but we can learn to control our reaction, our attitude. We can learn to control how we react to what happens. Learning to just drop our regret, remorse, sorrow, anger, and so on, and get back to living our life is an important lesson that we can all stand to learn. And here's how I first learned this. As a computer programmer, every once in a while I would accidentally delete an entire day or week's work at the touch of a button. It's what's called the dreaded operator error, end quote, for which we can blame no one but ourselves. In the beginning, I would rant and rave, yell, and even quit working for a while. I would sulk and curse my fate. However, sooner or later, I would just get back to work and start over. I had no choice. In time, I learned to spend not even an instant on regret, but just calmly to begin again. I would immediately start over. Later, when I began to practice meditation, this habit was further reinforced until when something terrible happens, I do my best to just leave it, and I continue with the life that I still have to live.